Welcome to the Positive Change Methods podcast with me, Andy Smith. Each episode will bring you tips, practical change formats, and new perspectives to make your life and work better right now, drawn from appreciative inquiry and related approaches. This episode is brought to you by the Practical Appreciative Inquiry Facilitator Training. Let me show you how to get started using appreciative inquiry confidently with teams and small groups. The next live online course starts soon. You can find the details and how to book your place at coachingleaders.co.uk. Let's get started. This week we look at the mysteriously named provocative propositions, short statements that describe the dream future for your team or group. They should be vivid and compelling so that people feel inspired to make them happen. They describe the destination rather than specifying how to get there. Some client cultures may find a different name like possibility statements, purpose statements, or stretch statements easier to relate to. Using provocative propositions with a team. In an appreciative team development workshop, provocative propositions serve a couple of purposes. They encapsulate the dream and serve as an easy-to-remember reminder for everyone of where to get to. They also represent an ideal to live up to, and a direction that's a stretch to work towards, even when the team or organization doesn't yet always reach what they aspire to. That's what makes them provocative. In a day's appreciative team development workshop, you can just ask the participants to come up with one or more slogans or straplines that sum up their dream, either while they're creating their artwork or immediately afterwards. Checklist for successful provocative propositions. Ideally, the provocative proposition creates powerful images in people's minds because, as the anticipatory principle says, organizations and people grow in the direction of their positive images of the future. So the wording of your provocative proposition is important. Here's a checklist for strong, vivid propositions. Is your proposition affirmative? It needs to be positively stated about what you want rather than what you don't want. Stretching. It needs to challenge people and the organization to raise their game, hence provocative, but still be achievable. Stated in the present tense, to make it easier for people to associate into and imagine. Exciting. To make the proposition statement as exciting and vivid as possible. Avoid abstract concepts like business benefit or stakeholder value, and jargon verbiage like leverage our capabilities. Instead, use simple, evocative, sensory-specific words so that they form pictures or tell stories. Use the active rather than the passive voice. Make sure it reflects and resonates with the core life-giving factors and values that you identified in the discovery stage. Grounded in real-life examples of the best of current practice. Because the proposition is more convincing and feels more real if you can point to examples of where it's already beginning to happen. So I asked around some years back in appreciative inquiry forums for examples of provocative propositions from real life. And here are a few of them. The bishop visited our church today and she brought her girlfriend with her. This is an example shared by Tim Slack of Appreciating People in the UK from a church group in Liverpool. We are easy to get to know. Example shared by Mike Sands from the Unitarian Church of Vancouver. Mike adds, when I first heard it, I was not very impressed. Later, I had a chance to work with a group of people in making specific plans to make it so. It turned out to be challenging, engaging, uniting, simple, elegant, powerful. It uncovered an enduring ideal. Here are some from a sequence about customer service quoted in the Thin Book of Appreciative Inquiry by Sue Annis Hammond. Our customers have a pleasant experience when they talk to us. We anticipate their needs and have the information available when they call. The information we need to answer their questions is available to us with the touch of a finger. Here's another one from a church group. Appreciative inquiry is really popular with church groups, especially in North America, but also in the UK. We open doors for children to fall in love with Jesus. From the All Saints Catechesis program, I hope I pronounced that correctly, shared by Rob Voyle of the Clergy Leadership Institute for Coaching and Training in Appreciative Inquiry. Here's an interesting one. We look after the spare tank. This is shared by Mike Holdstock of procoach.org, who comments, the group were going from being supervised or having a manager to being a self-managing work group. The spare tank they were referring to was the departing supervisor's role of ensuring that there was always backup, whether it be paper clips or people during the holidays. Very special to this group, incomprehensible to anyone else. So, provocative propositions don't need to mean anything to people outside of the group that it's intended for. Finally, probably my favourite, this is one that didn't arise from an appreciative inquiry process and isn't stated in the present tense, although it does have a date on it. Achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth. This is President John F. Kennedy in 1961. Talking about the moonshot, a lot of people didn't think that was possible. However, they did just squeak it in before the end of the decade. I remember as a small child in 1969 looking up at the moon and thinking, wow, there are people up there. Using provocative propositions in large-scale organizational change. When we move up from team level to dealing with larger scale organizational change, the appreciative inquiry literature uses provocative propositions in different ways and at different stages in the 5D cycle. For example, in the Appreciative Inquiry Handbook for Leaders of Change by David Cooper-Ryder, Diana Whitney, and Jacqueline Stavros, provocative propositions are the output of the design stage and are crafted by the core team steering the appreciative inquiry process after identifying the internal and external relationships that help build the positive core and examining the themes coming out of the discovery stage. By contrast, in Appreciative Inquiry, Change at the Speed of Imagination by Jane Magruder Watkins and Bernard Moore, they seem to be describing two types of provocative propositions. The first is a written image produced by a group in the dream stage to complement their visual image. Pretty similar to the slogan or strapline I suggested you ask your team to create in the previous section, although some of the examples they give are substantial paragraphs rather than punchy one-liners. They call these statements that encapsulate the dream macro-provocative propositions. The second type of provocative propositions they talk about are more detailed and are formulated as a basis for the design stage, as guidelines for how each part of the organization needs to develop and restructure in order to make the dream a reality. These more detailed kinds of provocative proposition involve more of an analytical approach, undertaken by project teams for each area or AI consultants working with the people involved in the restructure. That more analytic approach is probably necessary to keep track of the complexity of large-scale organizational redesign. For team performance improvement, we're more likely to get richer, more engaging, relatable, and inspiring possibility statements if they're created by the team themselves, while they're in the creative flow of creating the visual expression of their dream. At a slightly larger scale than team level, here's a method I've used working with a whole organization of about 35 people. In this case, we call the provocative proposition a possibility statement to better fit the company culture. Right after the dream stage, or perhaps at the boundary of dream and design, I put up two flip chart pages. One with a checklist of the qualities the possibility statement should have: positively stated, present tense, vivid and inspiring, a stretch. The other page suggested some starting points for the wording. We are ... Organization name is like ... What we do and or how we do it. What's important to our work, leading to highest purpose of our work. You could have more than one possibility statement, for example, one for each department or project team. To me, it makes sense to craft provocative propositions during or right after the dream. People are still inspired and the propositions are at a similar big picture level of abstraction to the dream vision. The propositions can then act as a bridge into the more detailed work of the design stage. as participants collaborate in designing what has to be in place to make the various elements of the dream actually happen. Try this exercise. 1. Ask yourself, what will it be like when your desired future is fully achieved, beyond my wildest dreams? 2. When you have an image of that dream, or even just a sense of it, step into it. What do you see? What do you hear? What does it feel like? Imagine it as fully as you can. 3. Make any changes or improvements to your dream that you need to in order to make it feel as good as possible. 4. Step out of the dream. After all, you're not there yet, and you want to make it happen in reality rather than just dream about it. But leave it in your future. Notice how strongly you want to get there, and make any further changes you need to. Maybe make the colors brighter or add some movement or sound to make it even more attractive and motivating. 5. Write a provocative proposition to sum up your dream. Something that's written in the present tense is stretching and makes you feel motivated to live up to it and make the dream happen in reality. Thanks for listening to the Positive Change Methods podcast with me, Andy Smith. You can find the show notes at positivechangemethods.com. Please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you like this episode, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you can review it. Or if you want to help us even more with less effort on your part, tell your friends and colleagues about the podcast. See you next time.